You start.
I start.
Okay, I'm Jay.
Why am I starting?
No, you're. Way to the intro already.
And I'm Chris.
No, we have to do this again.
And we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
No, you're doing this wrong. Hi, Craig.
Let's just talk for 45 minutes before the podcast about Star Wars, and then talk for 5 minutes about.
I mean, we can just
Star
talk
Wars
about
D&D.
we can talk about running Star Wars games. It's more or less the same thing.
Yeah, I love the Force and Destiny system that they had. I really sad to see it go.
Well, I'm glad they have the Star Wars 5e now. While technically you can't buy it, you can still find it online, and it's wonderful because it's 5th edition, so I didn't have to learn a new system. And that's for old ass bastards like me. That's important.
See, it would be difficult for me to do that because of just the way I run games with lots of like maps and miniatures. Like I have a couple super battle droids, but that's it. I don't have any stormtrooper minis. I don't have any Jedi minis. I don't know. I could probably make them, but I would need like at least 700,000 stormtrooper minis to use in a tabletop session.
They have board games out there. There's like a Star Wars miniature war game that you could utilize.
Yeah, I think it's stuff. But
yeah,
not...
well, no. They have like it's like Warhammer for Star Wars. I think it's called like, what is it? Revolution, Evolution. I don't play it, but hang on. I gotta find the name of it now.
Legion,
that's it. Star Wars Legion. There you go. Just buy a whole bunch of those and spend thousands of dollars. Because if it's anything at all like Warhammer, you're gonna spend $15 on a single fucking mini.
Pretty much.
Now, when it comes to space battles, I'm good since I played X-Wing. I've got everything. Got TIE fighters for days. Which is good because you'll need a couple of TIE fighters for every single X-Wing. So in my own game, the players have what's roughly the equivalent of a Millennium Falcon. So a single Millennium Falcon in X-Wing can take out 4 TIE fighters pretty reasonably by itself.
The amount of miniatures I would need to successfully run a Star Wars game would probably dwarf my current collection of Dungeons and Dragons miniatures.
Since I'm somebody, I barely use miniatures. Like primarily, I use it just for map placement. And honestly, sometimes a lot of combats in D&D, we don't really use minis at all. I'll just have a sheet of paper out there with locations so everybody can see where things are at, and that's about it.
Yeah, I know my faults. Like I forget to read descriptions. I forget to give descriptions of rooms sometimes because a lot of what I do is I spend extra time developing those rooms on the map that you see. So when the map room is revealed, everything you see is everything I wanted you to see. So the description of the room is this right here. If there's anything like extra, more like ambiance, I usually add that, but I'm trying to get better at that and add like the weird ambiance sentence or two, descriptions for each room, and have the minis there to like pop up and.
Yeah, so well, it kind of makes sense because you've told me before that you transitioned into D&D coming from wargaming, like you were you were a Warhammer player, weren't you? Or at the very least, you and Johnny,
John was heavily. I just started playing in 4th edition, which is D&D Warhammer.
It's more board game for sure than it is like tabletop role playing.
So yeah, for me starting in 4th, I was very miniatures just a part of everything that goes on. Like all the abilities, you need to have the map there. You needed to have, that table and that map and the miniatures, and because you got to move 6 spaces and then do your attack, move 6 spaces away. And you could kind of like theater the mind it a bit, but it was much more difficult and it wasn't as engaging because you had all these power cards in front of you with all these abilities, and like there was no connection with if the table wasn't there with the miniatures and the map.
I got
So,
you. Whereas I come from a second edition background where theater of the mind was everything. Like that's the Ral Partha miniatures era, but it was there wasn't an internet to order everything at the time period, so you had to find locations to buy stuff. And the minis were a single mini for anything would have been $7 at the time. $4, $7, somewhere in that range. And when you're just a dumbass teenager without a job, kind of expensive to buy that stuff. So like me and all of my friends, none of us had miniatures. It just wasn't a thing. They were all made out of pewter or, God forbid, lead back then. Yeah, they couldn't just mass print these things off.
right.
So it was really tough to properly get a hold of a true miniatures collection. Just sort of learn how to, it was very much do it yourself back then. Very DIY.
So, that's kind of the DM that I became was because of that, and the kind of the player that I am. Like I can do theater of the mind, and I've done it before. Specifically with Star Wars, actually, where a couple friends of mine would do over Skype. We would do Force and Destiny style games. But as a player, I prefer seeing the miniatures and the map, and as a DM, I absolutely need to have those. That's just part of the experience that I built each and every week, which is why I'm spending 40 hours plus a week working on model maps for these upcoming weekends so I can get everything to work out.
I'll tell you now, since we're still quarantined at home and not able to properly play, thanks coronavirus, I spent way more time prepping games than I did previously just because of Roll20. Like I have to go out and create everything. I have to go through the process you're talking about. Whereas when I'm when I'm there, I don't have to do that. I just sort of, my standard method is I'll work on ideas over the course of the week in my head. And the day of or the day before, I'll write down what needs to be written down. If I need to draw any maps, I'll get those done or printed occasionally. And it doesn't take me more than an hour or two to run a weekend session or to create a weekend session. But with Roll20, last weekend session, I had to go out and find all the images I needed. I had to find all the maps that I needed. I had to load everything on there. I had to get everybody invited to the game because it was a one-shot game. So it's way more time consuming and doing it online.
Yeah. So I find myself actually kind of like in a weird middle stage kind of thing where basically like if I'm running my campaign and I'm running it through the book or I'm running it through like a storyline that I've written and I know the maps I have to have those maps. I have to find the right maps, customize them to what I want, and then kind of deliver that product during the game. And
you're also running it via real campaigns, and that's also more time consuming because you have to read that material ahead of time.
Yeah. So what I was going to say too was the other aspect of me DMing is that I can go into a session with zero preparation, bring my box of pre-made maps, just like foldable maps. I have a huge giant shoebox full of them, and just bring a box of miniatures. I have this little tiny box that I bring with me everywhere, and it has all my goblins, all my kobolds, and a bunch of bugbears of different size, shapes, and variations. And so if you're running anything between 1 and 5, there's all your monsters. Yeah. You don't really need anything more. And I have a bunch of humans and random dwarves and stuff like that in there. And I can run a game, just right off the cuff, right off the top of my head, with no preparation at all, just kind of going through any random map that I pull out randomly from the box, and I'm good to go. But if I'm doing it for my friends at home in my home campaign, I got to put all this extra effort in because I got to hit those story beats the right way.
Oh yeah, like if I'm just running a one shot, something that's not campaign related, which was the beauty of my Hobtown campaign with the portals, I could literally just come up with something in 2 minutes and just I'll pull this map out of my ass, on the fly. It doesn't matter where they're going. You guys are now on the plane of air, and you see giant bees attacking you. Go. It was just really simple stuff, and you can just make things up when you aren't running it as a campaign. If you're running it in the books, like what are you running, Avernus right now?
I am running Avernus. I am running Saltwater Marsh as well. However, the saltwater is a little changed based on the current book.
Yeah. But running those, you have to have read those books pretty much front to back, and you have to have at least a general idea of where that day's game session is going to go or can go. That way you can find everything you need quickly on the fly.
Yeah. So I've had that kind of situation pop up a lot, more recently than before, where just because I'm running stuff on tabletop online, I have to have everything prepped ahead of time. And now that I have this map program, I have to use the map program, and then I have to put in animations now, because if you're going to do it online with everyone's computer, you might as well have animated spell effects, stuff like that. And so
that seems a bit much.
Well, the only thing I haven't done so far is I haven't brought in like the crap. What would the word be? Like when you walk into a room in a video game and a bunch of monsters spawn, there's a certain word for that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though.
I can set up those tags to happen, so like when the players reach this room,
you're talking about triggering the effects.
Yeah. So like if they walk into the room, then the music starts playing through the program, this music, and then the lights change from normal light to red light. And I haven't started to touch any of that yet, but
they used to have a video game, Neverwinter Nights, where you could script adventures like that to make stuff like that happen.
Yeah. So
now you've transitioned from running D&D games to running a video game. Good job.
Yeah. And well, hopefully they enjoy it, and it works out. We'll see. So, what was the topic you want to talk about again?
Oh yeah. So last podcast we briefly touched on different types of players, if I recall correctly, or bad players. And I got on Reddit and I found this list of not necessarily all bad players, but just different types of players or player tropes. I wanted to go through this list and see if you had ever played with any of these different types. And I'm sure you have.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just kind of get your thoughts on them, and I'll give you my thoughts on them. I think I sent you got the link, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll start with.
When you want to? Yeah.
Let's just start. Let's just start at the top and work our way down. So there's the storyteller, and who posted this? This was posted a year ago by somebody named Sorcerer on Reddit. So thanks. So the storyteller, apparently they, and I know these kind of players. I have one of them in my group. They are the person who is there for the role play and not for the combat. The person that's in my group, they're kind of a mix. Like they definitely like the role play aspect of it, but they're okay with the combat. The vast majority of my players we're here for the combat. They more of the strategy in the combat. I have absolutely played with people before who were 100% just there for the role play. Now saying that was primarily in like World of Darkness setting games. Which, like Vampire, Werewolf. I don't know if you've ever played any of those.
No, but yeah, I know what you're referring to. I have one guy who, not that he's a storyteller, but just has like the story of his PC and like what he does on a daily basis. Being that
Yes.
we're in Waterdeep, I give them time all the time, saying, "Okay, it's going to be a week before anything exciting happens. What do you guys want to do for this week?" And then he'll kind of go off, and it's like not a long tangent, but like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get these spices. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this beer. Go out and sell it." And I just took the extended downtime stuff from Xanathars and kind of just like let them come up with what they wanted to do. And I'd give them extra stuff, or I'd seed different rumors that way, or I would just on the fly make up like, okay, he's going out and making an ass of himself, so the city guard are going to come stop by later.
Yeah,
Things like that.
I love the fact that Xanathars has a carousing table just to see how much trouble you manage to get yourself into over the course of a week. Yeah, like all of my players have at least a little bit of a background history for any characters they make, but it's usually pretty minimal. And then there's the one player who has a 2-page written up of their character's actual history. And personally, I like that. It gives me more to work with if I have that. Knowing whether my character's parents are dead or who their parents are, this whole backstory thing, like it allows me as a DM to actually create more stuff.
I definitely use that. Like I definitely always like whenever I get a good story for any of the players, more than just like I'm a drow and I want to do drow things.
That's the best.
I kind of give them their own like personal unknown missions. And some people I tell them like, my wife was playing a drow priestess, and Loth wants you to destroy the Church of Elistray because she doesn't like Elistray. So you got to go do that sometime soon.
Yeah, and you never have to write anything at that point. You can literally just let them do what they're going to do. Like you have written their own content by just that simple little phrase.
Yep. And she actually did follow through on it. She found out where the church was, and she found out like what they do, and then they decided to go in there, and she talked to Loth. I was like, "Hey, I found the church. What should I do? You need to go kill everybody." She's like, "All right, cool. I'm going to go kill everybody." And then they killed everybody. Fucking murder hobos.
Well, but it was murder hoboing with a purpose. So,
storytelling
murder hobo. Yeah, very well done. All right, so we'll skip the casual because that's literally just everybody else that we play with. The power gamer. I know I absolutely have a power gamer in my group. How about yourself? I'll let you start on this one, and then I'll wrap it up.
I don't have a power gamer per se, because my definition of power gamer is someone who bends the rules, not so that they break, but so that they get the most advantage from the system as possible.
Yes, that's what a power gamer is.
But then again, the people I play with just know the rules well, and are not going to choose dumb things that don't make any sense.
Well, okay, so just my own description. I am not what I would call a power gamer. If you give me, set stats for my character, and I want to play a certain type of character, I'm going to put the best stats where I think they make sense. That's not necessarily power gaming. Power gaming would be taking that and then finding the most broken combination of classes possible at the level you're allowed to be at. So just as an example, we played a one-shot 2 weeks ago, and the power gamer in our group decided to play. Actually, no. Let me just. I can't remember exactly what he played from that one, so I'll give you the description of what he played from my game. I ran one last weekend, 8th level characters, and he decided that he was going to play a fighter, which is already a very, very powerful class, and he was going to play Battle Master, which is the best archetype for that class. Then he was also taking Polearm and Sentinel, which is the most powerful combination of weapons and feats that you could use. So, like, at every step along the path of creating a character, he took the most powerful options.
Right. And so like that to me isn't a power gamer the way I describe power gamers, because he's just, okay, I'm going to build the best character I can with everything that I know of the game. There's no ill intent there. For me, power gamers always have this ill intent. Like, I want the best character, and I'm going to bend what they really can do. I'm going to find the errata that best suits me, and I'm
Okay,
going to use that
so
and
what you're
berate you until you accept my interpretation of what my character is.
see
That to me is that power gamer.
That's not a power gamer. That's just a bad player. That goes beyond the power gamer. That's that next step, and that's the ones you really want to avoid. Power gamers will always try to play the best, most powerful broken combination. This same player that I'm talking about in 3rd edition played a Frenzied Berserker. Why? Because a Frenzied Berserker can do 800 fucking damage. Like every step along the way, he has tried to pick the most powerful of anything he can get his hands on. Not necessarily a bad thing. Like sometimes that is what you want when your characters get into rough situations. You're glad to have that powerful character. But yeah, that's sort of how I view the power gamers.
Now, especially more in 4th edition than in 5th edition, like you would have to like go online and find out like, okay, these are the builds that are actually viable based on the current rule sets of 4th edition. Because like if you didn't pick the right abilities in the right way and the proper feats, then you're pretty much playing a very weak character. So you kind of had to go out of your way to make sure that you had a good PC for your group. Otherwise, you'd be trash. 5th edition doesn't seem to have that problem.
3rd edition had it horribly, very, very badly. So 3rd edition, specifically with spellcasters, you had to build that character absolutely as powerfully as you could because of spell resistance and saving throws. It was very difficult to play an underpowered character in that game. So
to me, that's not power gaming as it is just your due diligence as a player to making a PC that doesn't suck.
Yeah, but I play characters. So I'm currently playing a barbarian. We're 10th level, right around there. And I've got 2 levels of fighter, which is a little bit of power gaming because I'm taking that just to get the 2nd level ability of a fighter. At the same time, I'm also taking a feat that does not make me more powerful because it makes more sense for my character to have that.
Right.
So you can offset power gaming instead of taking the most powerful options by occasionally offsetting it with something that makes more sense for the character to do.
Now, see, for me, I've always liked having a lot of skill challenges and a lot of not necessarily straight RP, but a lot of you have to figure out this situation that you're in, whether it be through words, violence, or other, and kind of give the players that option to like, oh, we're just going to talk our way out of this. And that seems to, at least for the players that I play with, they've kind of grown to understand that. So they may pick up things that will increase their skills or or give them advantage on like being an actor, because I gotta perform in front of these guards and lie out my teeth to get my friend out of prison because he fucking punched a guard last week.
Yeah, and that's effectively what I'm doing. Whereas I could be taking Great Weapon Master, which just makes me deal a lot more damage. Instead I'm taking the feat that lets me pick more skills or get proficient with more skills because it makes more sense for my character to do that.
Yeah. I think a lot depends on like your DM and who you are, whether or not like what you're doing is power gaming or just building a good character for yourself.
Yeah. And truthfully, it will always vary from campaign to campaign. My campaign, I worry less about the power gamer just because of the fact I tend to run a high-powered campaign. So I expect them to be more powerful. Even the starting stats I'm giving them most of the time are higher than recommended in the book. So anyway, there's a lot to the Power Gamer one. Well, hell, we could probably do even more of a podcast on that, but let's move to the next one. What do we got here? The Rules Traditionalist. I think this kind of actually overlaps with the Rules Lawyer, which is further down. Have you ever had rules lawyers in your game?
I am one.
You are one. All right, then. So the Rules Traditionalist is effectively the rules lawyer who is okay with the DM saying, no, this is my world. I'm not following what the rulebook says. Whereas the Rules Lawyer, and I don't have any of them currently, but I have played with people who are like, but it's in the rulebook. It says it right here.
Well, I guess I should. I am perfectly fine with the DM changing anything he wants to do. But I know, like I most everyone I play with always plays with the raw or uses the variant rules, and I'm always there to correct the rules if things are incorrect, just because I know all the rules and hey, that's not what this meant. So maybe I guess I'm really not a rules lawyer by that definition.
Yeah, by the definition you're giving, you're the rules traditionalist.
Yeah.
You know the rules inside out, and honestly, it's always good to have somebody who knows the rules. Like 5th edition, I've played it enough. I'm pretty damn good with the rules, but every once in a while, I mess something up, and one of my players will point it out to me. So
I definitely I have a friend who is that at our table, and I like it because you kind of need to, and it lets me as a DM not have to worry about if he's playing his character right.
Yep.
Yep. Now I know he knows the rules.
So for anybody who's listening to this nonsense, the rules lawyer never be the rules lawyer. It's okay to tell your DM where they missed something in a rule, but understand it is their game. If they want to run it differently than what those rules say, that's their prerogative. I don't know if it does in 5th edition, but I know in earlier editions at the beginning of the player's handbook, it's like, hey, these are just guidelines.
Yeah, and then I actually think that brought up a conversation we had a while ago about the whole like monks and their stunning fist, and the one guy who was DMing for somebody, and he didn't tell the player who was a monk that undead in his campaign are all immune to stun no matter what. And he played a monk, and then when he tried to stun the undead, that's when the DM sprung that upon him, like, no, undead are immune to stun in my campaign, and didn't let him re-roll the character or change the character any way that would have actually done a lot to help him out, because now he's a very underpowered character in this undead campain.
Yeah, that's honestly that's the DM's mistake there. Like they absolutely should have allowed them to re-roll the character or some such. Yeah,
I know that player stopped playing that campaign and no longer talks to that DM because of that whole situation. Which is never what you want.
No, that's absolutely not what you want.
It's just a crappy DM. Like, don't start a campaign and change the fundamental rules of the freaking system without telling your players that, hey, I'm going to be doing this, and then don't let them not re-roll their character when you spring it upon them later, just because you have a power trip because you think the undead need to be immune to stun because you don't like stunning fists, because there's like 2 things in the book that are immune to stuns.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes as a DM, you overlook things ahead of time. You just, we talked about the session 0 not long ago. Sometimes even during session 0, there's just things you forget. That being said, if it turns up into a situation where a character is just weak as hell because of some homebrewed rule you're going to make, then you need to allow them to make a different character. It shouldn't ever be in question. If you're going to be on some power trip and say, no, if you're going to play in my game, you're not changing characters, well, you're just a shit DM at that point.
Yeah. So, I felt real bad for that player, and definitely didn't like that DM rule.
I don't even mind the rule of making undead immune to stun. I personally like that rule. But that being said, I would make I'd do damn everything in my power to make sure the players knew it ahead of time. And if they wanted to change characters, I would absolutely make sure that was the case.
Yeah, Stunning Fist is stupid.
Okay, so the home brewer. I have met a couple of these myself. The home brewer, and I'm going to just read what they have written on here. These are the players that always have a quantity of homebrew content that they want to test that is best measured in shitloads. I personally, I almost think of, what do they call it? The DM's Guild as homebrew a lot of the time. Because there's tons of homebrew material on there. And like, there are classes on there that I personally have wanted to play. I would generally allow homebrew stuff for one-shot games, whereas for like a campaign, I'm much more leery to allow those. Mostly, just if somebody has homebrew stuff, you really need to kind of look through it and make sure it's not broken. I don't know if you've ever run into people trying to run homebrew stuff. I know that in the league it wouldn't be allowed, but what about for home campaigns?
Well, I use D&D Beyond for my character creation stuff.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, pretty much all that's right out then.
Yeah, all that's pretty much right out. But there are you can toggle on homebrew for that system. And there's a couple good homebrew rules. And the thing is, when you make a homebrew class in D&D Beyond, you have to supply all the information to it. And then it gets peer reviewed before it gets released.
Yeah.
Peer reviewed as in it's not like linking anything horrible.
You're talking about for D&D Beyond or DM's Guild?
D&D Beyond.
Okay.
So like they'll kind of like look it over and like if it looks, passable, they publish it. I don't think it's a very in-depth review process, but then again, when things become popular and you get upvoted a bunch, they become well known. So there's like a rattling race that a friend of mine used for one shot, and it worked out pretty well because a lot of people already used it. There were already modifications to it, and people liked it. So that has happened in at least in my personal experience. I've never really had a player that wanted to play something homebrew in my tenure of ever playing.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, truthfully. Like I'm trying to think of times where I've really run into it. Primarily, I run into it with people wanting to play other classes. There was one where we did a Christmas one-shot a few years ago, and it was interesting because on the DM's Guild, they actually have a Christmas class package that you could buy. And I purchased it, and then a few of us played classes from there. They had things like what was it? The Bardic School of Gift Wrapping was one of the prestige classes. The Lumberjack was one of them. Yeah, very just sort of Christmassy feel to them. And it was for a one shot. It was fantastic being able to play these offbeat, little ridiculous things.
I have my own Christmas one shot that I wrote, and hopefully we'll get it released to DM's Guild this year. I tell the players when they're making characters, because I have them make characters for D&D Beyond, like make Christmas themed characters. Give your characters some special ability that is Christmas themed for these characters. And it's not going to be like combat based, but it will be it'll help you out. So like my wife, she made a ranger, and it has it was like Rangers of the Swarm, but she decided to be like a deer wilder or something that she found.
Okay.
And she was that.
Reindeer wilder. Got it.
So reindeer wilder and so because she was of the swarm was little tiny reindeer that just like flew around her.
Oh no.
It was amazing, and I loved it. And she killed 2 players. It was the best. She's like, I didn't realize how big a 30-foot radius AoE was.
Yeah, it's pretty big. A lot of space. So prestige, not prestige, homebrew stuff can definitely be entertaining. Just, it can also be overpowered, so be careful with it. Let's see. What else do we have on here? The gamer and the war gamer. Gamers, they're talking more so of video gamers, and war gamers or people who play Warhammer. This all kind of runs together.
Well, that was the reason 4th edition was created.
Yes, fourth edition is very much a coverage of the gamer and the war gamer. It kind of feels more like a war game or video game. I've played with people in both instances, obviously. People who come over from video gaming specifically into D&D because of video games, or people who were war gamers first. So I don't mind the war gamer, honestly, because it is like D&D was originally a war game. It was, a very early war game back during the 70s, like Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and all of their people. That's what they did every weekend, was get together to play war games. So D&D was just a modified version of it that added storytelling. While the current systems aren't necessarily written with wargaming in mind, it still works out pretty well as a war game. I personally, I absolutely love the strategy as a player or as a DM of combat. I think it really is just very dependent on who the DM is and their style of gaming.
Yeah, that definitely does have there's a big weight to it there. And like for me, that's why I have the maps and the miniatures as almost a requirement for me as a DM, because I want them to kind of be invested visually into the game that as it happens. And I find, especially with the younger kids that I play with through AL, that's kind of the requirement that they need to stay engaged. Otherwise, they get distracted too easily. And I
Yeah.
think it helps tell the story better too. It helps kids nowadays are more fine-tuned even than when we were kids, with understanding the order of operations of things and how they go.
Which is saying a
So,
lot, because we're pretty good at that. So
right. So to have a bunch of like bugbear rush a miniature and then all attack with advantage, they go, why do they all get advantage? Wouldn't the first guy not have advantage? Yes, they would. And in theory of the mind, you could easily overlook that, but when you have the miniatures there, first miniature that shows up, he doesn't have advantage. The next one that shows up may not have advantage. The third one, no advantage. Fourth one, no advantage. Now he's flanked. Now there's advantage. Now he's flanked again. Now there's advantage. Maybe some homebrew rules in there, but
yep.
it,
Yeah. No, like
it helps.
the whole wargamer aspect also kind of overlaps with the rules lawyer and the rules traditionalist. Yeah, because wargamers are going to want to know the rules. I played Warhammer and lost many times for not knowing certain rules. So in D&D, there's a lot of overlap in some of these. So next one on this list is the zombie. And zombies, I've definitely played with these guys before. Really annoying. Some players start out like this initially and grow out of it, but it's the players who don't pay attention. So it's not their turn. Well, what are they doing when it's not their turn? Oh, they're sitting there scrolling through social media on their phone. Oh, now they're spinning their 10-sided dice. Lovely. All right, so now it's back to their turn. All right, I cast Fireball. Now it's not their turn again. They're back on their phone. Really annoying.
So I will admit that I've been that player sometimes, especially when I play spellcasters.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was playing my sorcerer spellcaster, I would be in the very far back. I'd be hidden, and then like shit would be happening, stuff's going bad, and I would pay attention to what's going on. I wouldn't ever be like, it's my turn. It's my turn. Oh, what's going on? I would never be that, but I would be like just sitting there on my phone, on the couch where it's more comfortable because I don't break the chair, and I'd be like, oh, it's my turn. I cast Firebolt at the boss, and I roll and I miss because I had nothing to help attack, and it's not my turn anymore. And I've been that player once or twice.
It's one thing. It's okay to pick up your phone when it's not your turn. Like the zombies are the ones who just don't pay attention until it's their turn.
Yeah.
If you pick up your phone and you scroll through Facebook or Twitter or whatever, but when your turn pops up, you know what your plan is. That's one thing. The spinning of the dice. Oh my God! Don't fucking do that.
Never had anyone do that.
Oh Lord, I have. Like it before cell phones were a thing. Before smartphones, that was the thing people would do. They wouldn't hop on their cell phones because they didn't have them. Instead, they would just sit there and spin dice and not pay attention until it was their turn. So moving on. The supporter. These people are there because somebody invited them along. They don't know anything about the game. They don't care anything about the game. Yeah, it almost, honestly, that kind of overlaps with the zombie a little bit. But can't say I've had a lot of those. Typically, the people who are coming to my games have always wanted to be there. But I also control my game sessions more. Yeah, you'll get a lot of the supporter types if you're running at a game store. So you probably have had some of these.
Actually, very few.
That's good.
What I get instead is not a player, but somebody else at another table who's now bothering my players and distracting them. And oh my God, is it so annoying. And moms who don't understand or don't care about their kids will just come running in and go all right, we got to go. All right, can we finish the combat session? No, we got to leave right now.
Oh, I've had that. I've seen that before plenty of times.
Okay. Thank you for bringing your son along. Bye.
Yep, I'll see little Timmy never again.
Other DMs coming to my table and backseat DMing. Throwing out their own rules and their own
rules lawyering. Yeah, fuck those guys. Don't fucking do that.
Like for AL, at least for the place that we have, there's only one table. It's only my table. There's another ALDM who is in the store as an ALDM, but he doesn't run a game. But he'll make sure to come over to my table and say, hey, you can't have this level 3 person playing your game. You're level 5 through, you're tier 2, so you're level 5 through 10. I'm like, well, you're not running a game, jackass. So unless you want to run the tier 1 table right now and take these 4 players that are level 1 through 4 and play the game over there, you can just go do that right now. Because right now you're not helping me and you're distracting me from the 9 fucking people that are at my table who are trying to play Dungeons and Dragons. Because you're not helping out.
A pox upon his house. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we'll move on. I know this is the grumpy dungeon masters, but my God. Oh, let's see. I don't think we need to cover all of these. Let's see which ones did you. The Munchkin and Power Game are almost the same thing, honestly. There's the main character. You ever have these? I don't have them too often, but it's one person who just has to be the center of attention no matter what.
Yeah, I've had those happen a few times. I'm very good at going through and being like, you. I get everyone at the table at least once. Like I always have an initiative going.
Yeah.
Essentially. So there've always been people like, okay, I want to do this, then I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and then I want to do that. I'm like, all right, well, you can do one of those things. And then I'll get 3 people down of my 9-person table, and he'll be like, oh, can I go off and do this? Like, no, you're doing that over there.
Yeah, on your people. On your initiative 22, you can do this.
So I had that, and there was one time when I was actually a player at the AL League, and there was a guy who was sitting right next to the DM. The DM was very new at DMing, and he just kept hounding him for stuff like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this. And he was playing a goblin, and the goblin's annoying, and he was being annoying, and he was just taking over the table until I and my character style was like, all right, I'm going to hit the goblin on the head. I'm just going to kill him straight out. I'm like, oh, PvP can't happen anything else. Like, I don't care. He's running around doing tons of stuff, and we haven't done a single thing because he's just running around in circles. And he was like, oh, I'll be quiet now. He finally got it.
Good. I mean, that's one way to deal with him. That's an issue that you'll occasionally run into with newer dungeon masters. Like I've done it so long, you've done it plenty long enough, and you know how to control your table For somebody who doesn't or isn't experienced enough, then it's pretty easy for somebody who is experienced or just somebody with a force of personality to walk all over the table.
Yeah,
Just a thing to watch for.
And it happens sometimes. You're always going to get people who want to do a bunch of things real fast. They're very excited, so you want them to stay excited. But at the same time, like in my case, I got 9 other people that need to do something.
I mean, force of personality it's a thing. My own gaming table, there's 3 of us that have massive force of personality. I recognize it, so I do everything I can to make sure I don't take over a table. But it's pretty easy for me to do that if I want. And a couple of other players are that way too, where they don't necessarily try to make it all about their character, but that's just who they are as human beings. And the other players won't necessarily step up as it is to make themselves the head of attention. The leader of the group, or de facto leader, or we have to make a quick decision, and then when a decision has to be made, you always see the same players step up to make that decision, even if nobody appointed them.
And for me, it always depends on the character that I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm playing the Cowardly Sorcerer, I'm playing the Cowardly Sorcerer. If I'm playing Thaladred the Soldier, I'm playing Thaladred the Soldier. And if I'm playing Thaladred the General, that's the whole different mindset that I'm playing too. So in this one case, I'm going to be following the rules and following the groups and following the person who is the leader, and that's my role. Okay, now I have to start making decisions. Now I'm the general. All right, you guys need to follow exactly what I'm doing and follow my orders to a T, because that's the way we're going to go. Or if I'm going to put a cowardly sorcerer, I'm just going to hide in the corner and like just throw fireballs out and look at my phone. So for me, it's always the kind of character that I'm playing, and I can read the table too and find out if the group kind of needs a little bit of like assurance, like, hey, we should probably be doing this or going off and doing that.
Yeah, like for me, I will intentionally try to step back. But if I do step back too much, then the other force of personality who doesn't know how to pull it back will end up taking over the table. So I have no choice but to sort of put myself out there to control that level of chaos. Yeah, it's just that's the group that I currently play with. I've played with other groups where that wasn't necessary. So.
Yeah, and when I was actually playing AL, we were going through the Dungeon of Dead 3 in Baldur's Gate, and I was letting them kind of go through and lead the sneaky way, dungeon crawler way through the dungeon, because I'm the dude in metal armor in the back. I'm going to make clinking sounds, so my stealth roll is going to suck. And they want to stealth their way through. I let them play the game, and I was just there to hit things for maybe 2 or 3 sessions in a row, and I offered no benefit to the encounters beyond, I'm going to make a stealth check once you guys all get up there, and you can tell me it's clear. That way my failure of a stealth check doesn't alert any monsters.
Right.
But the second we exploded a room and it echoed through the cave, so everyone knows that we're here, switch flipped. Now I'm in charge. I'm going to take the front line. We're not stealthing shit. I'm going to kick in every single door on the way through. Let's go. And just took the adventure by the hand and just dragged them through the latter half of it.
Yep. I have said nothing for the first 45 minutes. Now you motherfuckers are following me.
So that was always fun.
Let's see. We got a couple more I wouldn't mind looking at. The lol what is what he's got it referred to on here. These are the people who will always play chaotic neutral, and they always do what their character would do. I have met so many of these over the years. It is actually the reason I don't allow chaotic neutral as a alignment choice in my games. Because people who want to play chaotic neutral really are just kind of murder hobos. That next one on the list. If they want to play chaotic neutral, it means in almost all instances that they're going to set shit on fire and murder peasants. They're going to steal from anybody and everybody, usually including the party. and it never ends well.
But I'm chaotic, and that's what my character would do.
Yeah, they have no concept or understanding about alignments. People who play that. We'll have to have another discussion on alignments and how you think of them at some point soon.
That'll open some wounds.
We could talk about that one for hours. I have no doubt. All right, I think that covers it for the list. Anything else you want to talk about before we're done here?
I guess that you can put people in a box, and you can kind of label people as what they are, what they've done, what they do, and it's fun to kind of talk about it. It's like, oh, my group's a bunch of murder hobos. my group is a bunch of murder hobos. Part of that is the DM is on the DM. If you think your party is just being a bunch of murder hobos, then you got to give them situations where they can't be murder hobos.
Either that, or you let them be murder hobos and then you murder them for it. And when they have to make new characters, and it happens a couple of times, they'll start learning to not do that.
Yeah,
that's the strong arm version of it, but it does work.
But like sometimes it's like if it's just easier to murder hobo your way through a situation, you have to maybe come up with a different situation or a different resolution of that situation that it's not like, oh, combat's just the way to go. And then on top of that too, just as a player in general, it doesn't matter if you're a rules lawyer or a power gamer, you're there to have fun with your friends.
Yeah, that's a key rule, and I'm glad you said this because it makes me think about it. As a player, it is your job to have fun and to make sure that everyone else has fun. If your style of playing is ruining it for everyone else, you are doing it wrong.
And that's happened before.
Absolutely.
It's hard to identify when it does happen.
When I was younger, I've done that. Like I can recognize it because I've been there. I've been that guy who ruined it for other people. And a lot of it was because I was young and just didn't get it. But I didn't have, I didn't play necessarily with older people who had the experience to break me of that. So fortunately, over time, I grew out of shit like that, and I feel like I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, we all can improve. We all can be better players. It's just up to us to kind of be there, have fun. The DM is going to spend a lot of time prepping everything for you to do a session. You have to work with him with everything that he gives you. So, like, if he wants to run 4th edition and he's the only DM around, don't bogart him into 3.5 because that's what you want to play. He's not going to have any fun. He wants to do his own edition.
He might not even know how to run it.
If you can find someone that wants to DM for you, you've found a gift. Help him as much as possible. Buy him a box of minis. Buy him one of the rule books.
Buy him a pizza. Not saying, but just saying.
Show up to every single game on time, not 4 hours late,
and be a good player. Really.
Talk and have fun and just be who you are to the fullest extent, but just be aware that you're there with probably 4 or 5 other people, and you're there with a person who's spent a lot of time getting this thing ready for you. I've been lucky, and the majority of the players that I've played with have all been very respectful and really good players who go out of their way to help other players. Like, we have one player who's very autistic, but he wants to play D&D, and it's really hard for me to teach him how to play D&D while running a table full of 8 players. So we've had multiple players step up and sit with that person and help him out through all the problems that he's had. And he's went from being a headache of a player, not my quote, but from another DM's quote of him, to a very competent player. And it only took a couple months, but it was the players who did that, not the DM. So you can build a better table by being a better player. Don't sit there on your phone all the time. See what's going on. Understand what's going on.
And honestly, learn to dungeon master yourself if you're a player, because you'll learn a lot from that side of the game if you do this.
Yeah, and it can be a lot of fun, and pitching for pizza every once in a while.
Perfectly said. On that note, bye, Craig. I think we're done here.
Are we? Craig's not leaving.
Bye, Craig. I'm out of here.
I can't type the command fast enough.